audiobook in English for children 8 years of age and older titled The Moon Garden by C.V. Monterrubio, narrated by Juan Garcia, with the voices of Marta Turok, Santiago Cárdenas, and C.V. Monterrubio.
There was nothing anyone could say to convince Paulo to give the moon a chance. It was fall and orange, filling the evening sky, when he saw his mom for the last time. That night, he decided he hated the moon and swore he would never have anything to do with it again. It was 3 years later, and besides schoolwork, there was not much to do at the foster home where Paulo now lived. One day, the kids were invited to be a part of a project at a retirement home. Paulo decided to go along to get out of the house. He had never met an old person in his life. The Friday of the first visit, a nurse led the children towards a garden area with a white plastic-covered structure. A group of old people sat around it and greeted the visitors. A younger woman, wearing a sturdy apron, opened the door and let everyone inside. She welcomed them, introduced herself as their teacher, and explained.
This is our urban greenhouse veggie garden. We have 4 raised beds filled with soil where we will plant and harvest a variety of edible plants, guided by the moon calendar. If you pay attention and follow my instructions, before the end of the year, we'll be eating jicaletas grown in this very soil.
Kids and elders cheered at the goal of a yummy reward. But Paulo's heart fell to his stomach. He raised his hand.
Can't we use another calendar?
The moon phases affect the movement of the plant's sap. I'll explain more later.
Paulo couldn't believe it. He thought this was gonna be fun. Now it had to do with the moon. The teacher continued.
I'll draw a black circle on the days of the month that have a new moon, and a white circle on the days with a full moon. That should make it easy to follow.
The teacher gave instructions to the group and the day's activity began. Paulo started walking towards the tool shelf, trying to avoid the calendar when he tripped over something. He turned to the floor and saw a ball of yarn and a knitting needle roll away. Then he heard,
My scarf!
Paulo chased after the ball and the needle, caught them, and in a few seconds handed them back to a lady who extended her arms towards him.
Sorry, ma'am.
Wow, you're fast, Flash.
The lady turned around to put her knitting away. After that, she began planting seeds into seeding trays along with the other elders, while the children organized the gardening tools. Paulo muddled along, just waiting for the day to end. Paulo got through the second meeting by volunteering for tool cleaning duty outside of the greenhouse. But before he could find a way to avoid the moon calendar on the third one, the teacher gave instructions.
Today we will move the sprouts from the seeding trays into the raised beds. Pair up and grab a shovel and a pail from the table.
A lady's voice called out to Paulo.
Hey, Flash, why don't you come over and team up with me?
He turned and immediately blushed when he saw the lady with the knitting. The white-haired woman continued the conversation.
My name is Carmelita. What's yours? I'm guessing it's not Flash.
No, my name is Paulo.
Okay, Paulo. How about you help me with today's activity?
Carmelita handed him a pail filled with a dark brown powder.
What is this?
It's vermicompost, which is a fancy word for worm poop.
Gross! Why do we have to use worm poop?
Because it's organic. It nourishes the soil better than any chemical. And plants need fertilizer in addition to water and sunlight to grow.
The teacher approached the calendar. Paulo started to sweat.
is the moon gardening calendar. It relates the cycles of the plants to the phases of the moon. Today, the moon is waxing. This means that the plant's sap is going upwards. It's ideal to plant sprouts with the edible part above the ground, like tomatoes, celery, and lettuce. We will place these sprouts in the raised beds by making small holes next to the jicamas that we planted last time. Then we'll cover them with the vermicompost and water them.
Carmelita noticed Paulo's frown.
If you're grossed out, you can dig the holes and I'll scoop the fertilizer.
It's not that. I hate that the moon has to be in all of this.
Why?
I don't want anything to do with it.
I'm glad you told me. Well, we can't change what the moon does to plants, but I have an idea. A simple clue to remember is which plants to sow or harvest when the calendar day has a white circle or a black circle on it. How about I make you a reminder for that so that you won't even have to think of the moon? Would that help?
Maybe.
Come on, Paulo, let's get planting.
By the end of the afternoon, they had settled the sprouts into their new and fertilized home. The next time the kids came to the greenhouse, Paulo greeted Carmelita and sat next to her. While the rest of the group was getting settled, he asked her,
Do you have any children?
Yes, I have one, but I haven't seen him in a long time. He lives in another city.
Did you last see him when he was a child?
The last time I saw him, he came over with his own son, my grandson, who is a tad younger than you. They call me.
She pulled a cell phone out of her purse and showed him a photo.
We don't always have our loved ones close enough to hug them, but little things can be love messengers. I send them scarves to let them know that I think about them while I'm knitting.
Carmelita winked at him and motioned for them to pay attention to class.
We are almost to the new moon. Can anyone tell me what that means for our garden?
The sap of the plants goes down to the roots. The calendar shows it's the day to harvest plants that have the edible parts underground, like jicamas, carrots, and potatoes.
That is correct, Carmelita. But we're not there yet. Since plants need time to grow, we won't harvest anything for a few months. So today and for the next several meetings, we won't be gardening. I'll run recycling and arts and crafts workshops while we wait.
Paulo glanced at the calendar and exhaled with relief.
Phew, perfect.
Carmelita leaned over to Paulo and whispered,
When the teacher isn't looking, I'll share some candy with you. I always carry plenty in my purse.
Paulo's smile made an appearance. Paulo enjoyed the next couple of meetings at the retirement home. He learned the steps to a zero-waste life and to make natural bug repellent. Better yet, the teacher didn't bring up the moon once. Paulo and Carmelita chatted and shared lots of silly jokes. But the following Friday, plans changed. The foster home's van broke down, which meant no more greenhouse visits until further notice. Their repair, they said, would take at least a couple of months. Paulo couldn't believe it. Now that he was finally enjoying it, he couldn't go. The only thing he could do was wait. The street decorations announced the end-of-year celebrations, and the cold weather had settled in when the van was fixed. Delighted, the children headed over to their retirement home. Upon arrival, Paulo headed to the greenhouse to find his friend. When he didn't see her there, he asked the nurse if she knew where Carmelita was.
She's still in her bedroom.
Oh no!
Paulo ran inside the home and reached her room gasping for breath. He was about to knock when the door suddenly opened. Carmelita! Paulo threw his arms around her, careful not to knock her over. She hugged him back. When they finally pulled apart, she asked,
What's wrong?
I thought something happened to you.
I was wrapping up a gift for you, sweetie. Here.
Carmelita handed him a covered bag. He put his hand inside and pulled out his present.
I needed a scarf. Wow! You included a jicama with a black circle on one end and a tomato with a white circle on the other.
I told you I'd make you a reminder for our garden. Those circles match the ones in the calendar.
Carmelita winked at him. Paulo choked up.
Thank you, my first love messenger. You know, Carmelita, the moon reminds me of my mother, and thinking about her makes me sad. I don't know if I'll ever see her again.
I feel the same way about my son and my grandson. I also don't know if I'll see them again. The only thing left is to accept reality and focus on the present. Today, I'm here with you, dear Paulo. The past doesn't exist anymore. The future is unknown.
Will I ever feel better?
Take it one day at a time. We're here now. Let's enjoy today together and go see what it has in store for us.
Paulo hugged Carmelita.
I love you like my grandma.
It was time to go to the greenhouse. Paulo tied his new scarf around his neck and offered his arm to his friend as support. They walked back to the group together. The teacher greeted them at the greenhouse door and handed each a jicaleta.
Just in time. We're harvesting jicamas. Enjoy your reward.
Yay!
Paulo and Carmelita high-fived their treats. Before sitting down, Paulo approached the moon calendar. He looked at today's date, which had a black circle on it. Then he held up the end of his scarf with the black circle and the jicama against it and smiled back at Carmelita with a wink. The end.
The first paper edition of this book was published in San Rafael, California in 2024 in hardcover, bilingual, and full color. Illustrated by Claudia Navarro. Edited by BBU Publishing and printed in Mexico. The audiobook was recorded in Oslo Sound Studios in Mexico City and produced by audio engineer Orson Ramirez.